Ma'am, please come. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to extend a very warm welcome to our member Board of Governors, Professor Malvika Harita, our chief guest for the evening, Dr. Rukmini Banerjee, CEO, Pratham Education Foundation, our director, Professor Arti Krishnan, and all the faculty, staff, students, and alumni who have joined us physically and also have logged in from across the globe for the 51st Foundation Day celebrations. We will start the function with invocation. The Sharada Vandana is being presented by Ms. Purnima, one of our staff members.
या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रान्विता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या कुन्देन्दु तुषार हारधवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रान्विता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करा प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापः.
Thank you, Purnima. Next, we will request the dignitaries on the dais for lighting of the lamp. Now we request Professor Arti Krishnan, Director IIM Bangalore, to deliver his welcome address.
Good evening. I'm delighted to welcome all of you to the 51st Foundation Day celebration of IIM Bangalore. Let me use this opportunity to share with you a few recent milestones of the Institute. The Institute continues to maintain its global and national standing among management schools, thanks to the contributions of all our brand ambassadors, many of whom are here, our immensely talented faculty, our dedicated students and staff, and of course our illustrious alumni. We are consistently ranked among the top business schools in global and national rankings, reflecting our commitment to delivering a versatile, high-quality management education across different formats. On this occasion, I would like to thank the central government and the government of Karnataka, who have provided sustained support to our institute in all its initiatives, be them academic or otherwise. I am happy to inform you that just last week, the Government of Karnataka approved the establishment of a Center of Excellence in FinTech at NSRCEL, our incubator, at a total cost of Rs 13 crores over a 5-year period. This includes investment in both incubation and acceleration programs, as well as skilling and training programs, which will be undertaken by our online learning unit, IIMBX Digital Learning Foundation. I would like to congratulate the chairperson of NSRCEL, Professor Srivardhini Jha, and the CEO of NSRCEL, Mr. Anand Sri Ganesh, for working with the government of Karnataka to bring this center of excellence to NSRCEL and IIMB. Over the years, we have been engaging with our alumni to strengthen their connect with the alma mater. Some of you might have been following the run which happened yesterday, where Professor Saurav Mukherjee and Jayant Yadav did a 50-kilometer relay run. That's just one example. But apart from that, we have a lot of other important alumni-driven initiatives. Alumni giving back to IIMB has grown over the years. And as I had already mentioned during the convocation, I'm happy to say that subsequently, in August, we signed an MOU with Mr. Matthew Syriac, Executive Chairman, Florentry Advisors Private Limited, and alumnus of the PGP class of 1994, to pave the way for setting up a global center of excellence, the Tony James Center for Private Equity and Venture Capital. This is the single largest contribution from an alumnus of IIMB so far, and we are grateful to Matthew not just for his generous support, but for his extreme thoughtfulness in contributing to the naming of 4 classrooms on campus after faculty who taught his batch, and for his clarity in setting up scholarships for PGP and PhD students to continue excellent work in the areas of private equity and finance. His contribution is a powerful statement of the transformative impact that business school alumni can have on their alma mater and industry. I'm sure that the Tony James Center would have great impact, so maybe we should give a big round of applause to Matthew and his contribution. When we talk about the Institute, we always like to speak about the positivity which we hope to radiate even beyond the boundaries of our campus. One way in which we do this is, of course, supporting a whole range of initiatives in diversity and inclusion. In July, we saw the opening of the NSRCEL incubated Mitti Cafe on campus. This cafe, run and managed by adults with disability and persons from vulnerable communities, is very strongly aligned to our overall commitment to diversity and inclusion. As many of you might know, currently more than 45 Mitti cafes are operating across the country, including at Rashtrapati Bhavan and the Supreme Court of India. And Alina, who was the founder of Mitti Cafe, worked on that idea right here in NSRCEL, just behind the auditorium. And Professor Malavika here was one of her advisors. So there have been many ways in which we have contributed to the growth of Mitti Cafe. IIMB, of course, believes in reinvention and relevance while staying committed to our roots. In September, we made our first entry into undergraduate education with the launch of an online BBA program in digital business and entrepreneurship. Through this initiative, we hope to create the next generation of world-class leaders who would become entrepreneurs or join digital enterprises or startups or work in traditional businesses and help in their digital growth. Our digital learning vertical, IIMBX, which I mentioned earlier, continues to lead the way in equipping students and faculty adapt to new learning environments. During the last year, IIMBX has maintained its focus on launching new courses to empower professionals from AI, healthcare, public policy, etc. Of course, we also continue to do all the things which a good academic institution does, like organizing conferences, workshops, seminars, inviting eminent speakers, fostering discussions on the latest themes in management, economics, etc. And we also take pride in our faculty who bring vast industry, consulting, and academic experience into the classroom. The cases they develop are used at a wide variety of prestigious institutions across the world. Just to give you some flavor of the diversity of the things that our faculty does, I'll just name a few achievements. These are not exhaustive by any means, but it'll just give you some flavor of the kind of work our faculty does. Professor Trilochan Shastri recently wrote a book called The Essentials of World Religions. This book offers an in-depth exploration into the core tenets of the world's major religions, looking to uncover a deeper understanding of their shared philosophies and values. He was recently felicitated by the Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce for his significant contributions in the field of agriculture, where he has been involved with an NGO for many years that provides support to the livelihood of farmers. So that's one side. On another dimension, we have Professor Shainesh, who recently co-authored a book that celebrates the wonderful flora and fauna on our campus. This book, brought out under the IIMB History Project, is also a narrative of the profound connection between education and the environment. I must thank our excellent horticulture team, which gives us all this beautiful greenery and consistently wins the award for the best garden in academic institutions. The trophy is currently instituted by the Karnataka State Department of Horticulture. One of our young faculty members, Professor Rusha Das, has co-developed a proposal titled Local Environmental Democracy and Green Transitions, Mapping Institutional Mechanisms and Political Mobilizations, along with Dr. Christine Lutringer from the Graduate Institute of Geneva. This proposal has been selected for funding, receiving a significant grant from the Zurich University of Applied Sciences. Another one of our young faculty members, Professor Malika, has figured in the 2024 Best 40 Under 40 MBA Professors Worldwide by the publication Poets and Quants. This identifies the most promising young professors who are at present teaching in MBA programs across the world. We are, of course, committed to forge and sustain collaborations with diverse entities in our quest to provide quality management education and research, as well as create impact. We, apart from offering world-class management courses, aided by all our stakeholders, we continue to execute our social responsibilities with utmost commitment, keeping a strong focus on environmental awareness, positive impact, and sustainable living. Just to mention a few initiatives in this context, the Sustainability Task Force we set up more than 2 years ago continues to do impressive work. Our chief guest today would be happy to know that the IIMB Sustainability Task Force works closely with neighborhood schools such as the Samhita Academy by conducting workshops and programs to create awareness about climate change and the need for adoption of sustainable lifestyles. We have also done teacher training programs for school teachers on sustainability. In fact, talking of impact, IIMB tops the positive impact rating year on year by being one of the few business schools globally at level 5. In this ranking, students worldwide assess their business schools on how they perceive their positive impact on the world. And this impact goes well beyond their contribution to business and the economy. It addresses the need for positive impact on society. I'm particularly happy that we have with us this evening a very distinguished educationist, Dr. Rukmini Banerjee, as our chief guest. Dr. Rukmini Banerjee is currently the Chief Executive Officer of Pratham Education Foundation. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the path-breaking work that Pratham has done over the years. And Dr. Rukmini Banerjee has been very strongly involved with many of these pioneering initiatives. She was trained as an economist at St. Stephen's College, Delhi, and the Delhi School of Economics. She was a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford and completed her PhD at the University of Chicago in 1991. After she returned to India in 1996, Dr. Rukmini Banerjee joined Pratham. Over the years, she has worked extensively in Pratham's education programs in both rural and urban areas. Along with her teams, she has played a major role in designing and supporting large-scale partnerships with state governments in India for improving children's learning outcomes. She led Pratham's research and assessment efforts, including the annual Status of Education report exercise from 2005 to 2014. Many of you would know that the Asar report is taken as one of the most authentic reflections of the state of primary education in India. Since 2015, she has been the CEO of Pratham. In 2008, she received the Maulana Abul Kalam Shiksha Puraskar by the government of Bihar. She was the first recipient of this award. And in 2021, she was awarded the Yidan Prize for Education Development. Dr. Banerjee writes frequently on education in both Hindi and English dailies in India and enjoys writing books and stories for children. It is indeed our privilege to have her as our chief guest today. So once again, let me welcome all of you to the Foundation Day. And of course, we all look forward to listening to Dr. Banerjee.
Thank you, sir. Now we request Professor Malvika Harita, Member Board of Governors, IIM Bangalore, to deliver her address.
Good evening. On behalf of our chairman, Dr. Devi Shetty, who was unfortunately not able to be here today, and the Board of Governors, may I congratulate the many generations of students, faculty, staff, and alumni on our 51st Foundation Day. It is a momentous occasion for IIM Bangalore, and my heartfelt thanks for all your support. As an educational institution does not get built in a day, nor is it easy. It requires a vision, clear strategic direction, and most importantly, a plan of action which has to be implemented meticulously at every level. It requires teamwork and leadership, and that is the reason IIM Bangalore is one of the top business schools in the world. Am I biased? Of course I am. My life for the last 44 years, first as a student, now as a professor, mentor, and a board member, has been closely entwined with my alma mater. It is one of my love marks, and it is an institution that I both love and respect. I'm very interested to hear what Dr. Rukmini Banerjee, the Chief Executive of Pratham Education Foundation, is going to say about the future of education, a question which is being discussed and debated across the globe. Having been a teacher myself for the last 30 years, the future of education in the days of technology, AI, and ML bothers me greatly, as does the end game of educational processes. Is it only about jobs and money, or should there be something deeper? It made me look at our motto, Tejasvi Navadita Mastu, with new eyes. The line derived from the Upanishads translates as "let our study be enlightening." In my opinion, it encapsulates the essence of learning and its profound impact on individuals and communities alike. Education should not merely be a means to an end, but a journey of discovery that illuminates our understanding, shapes our perspectives, and ultimately prepares us for a more meaningful existence. Enlightenment is much more than the acquisition of knowledge and facts and degrees. It should foster critical thinking, creativity, and the ability to question assumptions, the desire to explore, to ask why, and change status quo if required. In fact, it is actually a desire for lifelong learning. In an age characterized by the rapid dissemination of information, it is imperative that we cultivate discernment to sift through all the noise and extract valuable insights that can lead to informed opinions and innovative solutions. That's how we don't get subsumed by the bots, but add the human and the humane layers that only we human beings can. It goes without saying that we need to apply our knowledge in the real world context for it to be useful for the corporate world and for the world at large. And I'm glad to say that IIM Bangalore is pursuing this actively with their new programs and at the NSR cell, which nurtures entrepreneurship. As educators, I want us all to think about a deeper issue about whether our current educational systems are equipped with the wherewithal to nurture an appreciation for diversity. Not just gender and sexuality, but diversity of philosophies, of cultures, of history, and of religions. The ability to form one's own opinion without being swayed by fake news or the media or biased influencers and public figures. It is my belief that education should instill in its students the courage of their convictions, the ability to see others' perspectives and make mid-course corrections where required, but stay true to your purpose ethically. When our studies enlighten us, they also spark a passion for social change, driving us to take action for the causes that we believe in. Fostering an environment that prioritizes enlightenment is the only way we, as an institution, can ensure and empower future generations to be thoughtful, engaged, and ethical leaders. Tejasvi Navadeto Mastu. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now it's time to hear our chief guest addresses. We request our chief guest to please come and address the gathering.
Thank you so much to IIM Bangalore and to whoever decided to invite me. This is indeed a great pleasure. I have to, however, start with a small story. Some years ago, I was invited by a very well-known university to speak. And the person who invited me told me the topic. The topic was going to be the connection between higher education and basic education. Now, this is 20 years ago. So I said, I can come, but there's only one word I can say. And the word was none. The lady still was very persuasive, and she said, you must come and say this on our campus. So I went, and for 15 minutes, I elaborated on the word none. And I was never invited back there again. Now, it's a different time and place, and already, even before coming into this hall, I've met people both on the faculty as well as friends who are really doing a lot of work in the field of basic education. So I feel I'm a little bit more legitimate to come here and speak to you. Having said that, Pratham, as you know, the word means primary or priority. And so I have spent much of my last 30 years really dealing with primary, prathamik, and pre-primary, purva prathamik. So although my previous speakers are curious about what will happen in the future of education, I think I will limit myself about the two areas in which I know. And I'm very conscious of the fact that those two areas are probably as far away from where you are. We deal with small children, medium-sized children, but many of them. And you deal, which I can see, with much older children and at a much more sophisticated level. So I hope that whatever I have to say will still be of some relevance, and I hope it will, because it is when you are small and what happens to you that sets the future, the seeds for what can happen later. So what I thought I would do is, I'll talk in two parts, a little bit about primary and a little bit about pre-primary, and also with that talk a little bit looking back and perhaps looking forward. And I see the clock in front of me, and there is someone who is going to tell me to stop, because I have also been a school teacher, and I'm sure like many people here who teach, you teach in 50-minute chunks. I don't know what the class sizes here are like, class times. So I have to stop at a certain point, and if I go too far, Saurabh will signal that I should stop. So let me begin with sort of just looking back. We are a country in which there is, at different estimates, but something like 250 million children of school-going age, which is larger than many countries that we know of. And then in the last 30, 40 years, or maybe even more recently in the last 20 years, to make sure that every one of these children is actually enrolled in school, they come from, just as you said, wide variety of backgrounds, of types, of communities, of every kind. But I think that we sometimes take for granted that India is so very close to universal schooling. This was not the case when we were in school, certainly not when I was in school, and I think certainly not even probably 20 years ago. But if I look at numbers, and I thought since I'm coming to a research and a high elite institution, I should bring some numbers, that we have been high, school enrollment has been very high for many, many years now. Even as far away as 2008, there were 95% children enrolled in school, and you can see the numbers even in the last 12 years. And most interestingly, after COVID, there was a lot of fear that there will be a big dropouts as a result of the 2 years of the pandemic, but that's not the case. Now, enrollment has a good definition, but I think the best definition I've received of enrollment was in a 3rd or a 4th standard class in a government school in UP. Now, on most boards, and I don't know if you do this in IIM, but at least in schools, there are 2 numbers always written on the board, which the teacher writes when she comes in. So the first one is enrollment. Now, I was actually keen to see if children in that class could read that word. I wasn't actually looking at the enrollment numbers. So I asked, "Ye kya likha hai?" And there was at least 1 or 2 kids in the class. I mean, they knew what the word was, whether they could read it or not. So they said, "Namankan." It's a tough word. So I said, "Namankan ka matlab kya hai?" So Namankan ka matlab hai ki mera naam school aa gaya hai. I think it's the best definition of enrollment, that my name has come to school. What's the next word? Attendance. Upasthiti. Again, tough word. Uska matlab kya hai? Ki main bhi aa gaya hu. And so every time I use the word enrollment, I am compelled to think of the children and their definition, that what we need for universal schooling is ki mera naam bhi aa gaya hai aur main bhi aa gaya hu, and I'm able to do that on a daily basis. I have actually a very nice attendance map of India, which I forgot to bring, which will show you that in certain parts of the country, these two are very similar, and certain parts, it's still a little far apart. But having said that, there is another fact which I think is not as well known. Today, and probably for the last at least 5 years, more than ever before, we have more children. We have almost 98 and plus children enrolling in school and staying definitely till 8th standard. So we have at least, and these are all rural numbers, we have many families in the country where the first person to reach 8th has already happened, probably from 2017-18 onwards. Now, if I break that 250 million down very broadly, and I'm basing this on very rough estimates from our last census, which was, as you know, in 2011, there's about 25 million children in each age group. 6-year-old, 7-year-old age group, broadly speaking, 25 million. And if we look at even our own government statistics, around 2008 or so, or 2008-7, something like that, The 8th standard enrollment across India, across all schools, at least for which data existed, was somewhere in this 11-12 million range, which means even 10, 15 years ago, half the children who came into first reached 8th. But if you look at the most recent numbers, I've pulled out, I think, from 17, 18. There are probably more recent numbers than that. This number is now much closer to 22 million. And because I belong to the state of Bihar, so I felt compelled to show you these numbers. And even if you can't see the exact numbers, you can see that these bars have just leaped and grown across these sort of 10, 12 years. And even more importantly, you'll see that after a few years, the green bar, which represents girls, is higher than the boys. Now, this also is a huge accomplishment for a country. This is just a Bihar case, but in every state, that we today have children who enter class 1 and remain in school well beyond class 8. And to get this done for every child in the country, or practically every child in the country, is, I think, it says many things. To me, one of the things it says is that this is not done by any one party alone. By party, I mean any one kind of people alone. Having a government policy which says every child in school does not bring every child to school. It certainly helps in bringing buildings, bringing teachers, bringing textbooks. But I think if there was not a joint compact between society, between families, between communities, between schools, between people at the high level, people at the ground level, such a big feat cannot happen. So the reason I highlight this is, in the last our own living memory, we as a country have actually achieved this. And we have achieved it faster in some cases. I showed these numbers of Bihar to somebody from Africa, and they were saying that this kind of an acceleration is actually not even tom-tommed. Because we are, I think, taking it for granted now that universal schooling is a phenomena that we have come to take for granted. So if you look at our own understanding, I think what does schooling mean, everybody understands. If you even ask children who are maybe selling things at the traffic light, and you ask them why you're not in school, they know that the right answer is that they should have been in school and they're not there today. So as a social norm, as a complete common understanding, schooling is both easy to see, because if you're not in school, you're outside, that's very visible, and it is also very well understood. I think even illiterate parents know children should go to school, and what does it mean to go to school. But, and if I go back now to our early history in Pratham, even around 2000, we started our work in Bombay, we could see that more or less increasingly every year more and more children were in school. But as that was happening, there was also some other things that people were voicing. Teachers would say that in class, the children are not doing quite what we would like them to do. And parents would say, what we expected from school is not quite happening. Parents blame teachers, teachers blame parents, especially when the other party is not enough. And most often, I think, children would look above and look at this badminton game going on, and themselves wonder that when they were in the classroom, often what was happening didn't seem particularly appropriate for them. Now, this unease, this restlessness, this whatever you may call it, I think as we began to really get into it, was all about what should each year in school add to your portfolio of things that you know and things that you can do. Ideally, and even economists, many of whom must be in this audience, until very recently would use years of schooling as a proxy for education. And what is that education? Is that every year that you are in schooling, something is being added to you, which together gives you whatever that value of education is. But I think what the restlessness that you felt on the ground, or from people who could articulate it better, was that I'm not getting that value, I'm not getting that delta, which each year in school should produce. Now, when that happens, I think you get a very low level of equilibrium. One is that teachers, and let us assume that like any other population, there are good teachers, there are okay teachers, and there are bad teachers. But across the distribution of teachers, particularly the good teachers, often there's frustration that I'm putting in a lot of effort, but it's not going as far as it should. Parents, disappointed. खुद पढ़ाई नहीं किए हैं, but जो हमारे बच्चे स्कूल जा रहे हैं, they don't seem to be making as much progress. So disappointment from the teacher's side, demotivation, and from the children's side, I think, just disconnect, because whatever is going on in the class is not me. So something needed to be done to really put your finger on it. And as I've said here, I think learning is less visible. People feel if a child goes to school, something must be happening there. And therefore, it is not like schooling, which has a longer, let's say, campaign history. There's a longer history of movements around schooling. So learning was much more, it was much harder to catch. Around 2000, 2001, in fact, we were doing a program to help kids, do better in school. And the first randomized control trial that was done by Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo, this was before I think they were called JPAL. We worked with them for a whole year. Results were quite okay, but we found that even in the whole year, we are making progress, but not enough progress that is really required to get kids on a trajectory that they can really make progress. So around that time, it was around 2001 or 2, we decided to stop what we were doing and do a reboot. If you are 10 years old and you are not able to really cope with what's happening in school, teaching you letters and numbers is not going to be enough. We need to accelerate that a lot more. And so we began to work. There were about 300 or 400 people who stopped, took about 20 children, wherever they were. Some were in-school children, some were out-of-school children, but all age 8 and above. And we tried to figure out what are the key elements, what are the key components of what will give us this value that we are looking for. Few things, very simple. Today, looking back, it's very obvious. If you can't read, you really can't do anything else. So reading is a fundamental block in the sense of element, and block also in the sense of if you don't get past it, then you're blocked. So reading is definitely one. And the other is if you don't know numbers and don't know some basic operations, you can't really move forward in arithmetic. So as a result of these initial things that we were doing together in a fairly large group, we came about, if you look at the reading tasks, we didn't look at this actually as an assessment tool. We looked at it as a way of describing the children that we had, because it could be that I had children who were 8 and above, many of whom were still struggling with reading letters or just about reading letters. But you could have a class in which there were children all along this sort of ladder. So it was really a way of describing who the children were. And in that description, because we were working across different languages, different contexts, we needed to have a common vocabulary to talk to each other. You reach a common understanding when I think you have a common vocabulary, and when you can discuss the same things on the same platform. So this is what we started with, and in fact this tool, which has later come to be known as the USR tool, was really a way to help us all think together and look at how you can take children who today could not read letters to be able to reading letters to words and further and so on. And the math had a similar pattern, though I must say that I like the language one better because it's truly a progressive one. So we started doing this, and then we worked a lot. We started in Bombay, we worked in other cities, but soon it became the norm for us that when you began to work in any community, let's say you were working in a village, you first did a village report card of this type where you had the following information. Are the children enrolled in school? Can they read this basic levels? And do they do the basic arithmetic? And when you started working in a village, you realized often village is a big place. So you went mohalla by mohalla, or tola by tola, or whatever the nomenclature in that particular area is, because there it is both an aggregate as well as you actually know individual children. And the testing or the assessment is so simple that actually a lot of people would help. And in that help, I think, would come the participation, the curiosity, and the engagement, because very often people also felt that if children are in school, they must be learning. And seeing this would often open everyone's eyes to it. And then we found that if you put these several days of work in every mohalla in the village together, you would have a village report card. People had participated, so talking about that at the village level was possible, or at the school level was possible. And then the more that you talked, some solutions would come out which would get everybody's thoughts in the same place. So the question was that if this whole circle works at the community level, what will it take for it to work at a district level or state level or at a country level? Because it was clear that we understood the schooling issue and we were working towards it, but we needed to work on the learning issue, where we needed to first come and find a common set of vocabularies, a common understanding before you can move ahead. So 2005 is when the ASER work started, and in the first year it was very bizarre for everyone that you were going around in the villages doing a household survey and asking exactly the same questions as you did in your village report card, except when we were doing it at the district level, so there was sampling involved. And so this ASER report, which many of you may be familiar with, was done every year from 2005 to 2014, and after that we've done it every alternate year, except the COVID years, which came in between. And it remains even today. This year's ASER is in the field right now. This last weekend was a big weekend for the survey. We do it on the weekends. And now this week, everybody's off for Diwali, and you'll come back after a little while, because then you have Bhai Dooj and Chhat and whatnot. October and November are notorious for interruptions in school life. Very nice for other life, but it gets in the way. And so the aim still remains the same. Let me show you the last big ASER, 2022, because this actually will explain and reach some kind of an understanding. So I've taken class 3, 4, and 5. And if you can see, you're exactly plotted. Every child is placed at the level at which they can read comfortably. So you can be any one of these 5 levels. This is India, and you have the same thing for each state or for each district. And you can see the sample size is fairly large. It's almost 700,000 children who are a part of this big survey. Most of our school systems, all our school systems in India and many in other parts of the world, are organized by age and grade. So each grade you have a different curriculum, you have different textbooks, and you kind of move linearly through the system. But when you look at the children who are in the system, and I think if you look at this table, it shows you 3 broad facts. One is that the levels are low. If you look at class 3, and you look at the last column, 20.5, granted, this is after 2 years of COVID, but what it tells you is that only 20% of the children in class 3 are at grade level, which means that you have kind of, at some way, lost 80% of the children so early. So learning levels are low. Even in 5th, we see that the children who can at least read up to the 2nd standard level is less than half. So you have 5 years of schooling, but less than half of those children at 5 years have 2 years of learning. This is what the difference between schooling and learning is. You can also see that within each class, there's a lot of variation. Whether you are in 3rd or you're in 5th, there are children distributed across these different categories. And finally, you see that while children in class 5, more children can read, but the increase from the 20% to the 30% to the 40% is too flat, because you really should have children reading at this very basic 2nd standard level. The first number, 20.5, should be as close to 100 as possible. So every year that you are getting, you're not adding that much value. So if you had to describe the situation with schooling, it could be very well captured by the 98%. And if you had to describe the situation with learning, you'll need, this is the reason that I thought it would be a good idea to show some numbers, because the numbers carry the story very simply. And it's not just numbers. Behind every number, there's a story. A child who in class 5 cannot read, and you may have met many of such children, they don't look at you in the eye. They rub their nose. If they're outside, they try to run away from you. And there is a sense that the child knows that I'm not up to the mark. Now, children, unlike adults, don't blame other people. They internalize it for themselves. If you're an adult, you're mature enough to say, it's not my fault, it's his fault. But when you're a child, you tend to feel that there's something that I am not being able to do. And this, I think, this is what reading and math may be the tip of the iceberg. What it really means is, by class 5, 50% of my children are not feeling good about themselves and feel that somehow they are not up to the mark. And this, according to me, is what will lower the whole productivity of the nation, because if you don't feel that you are worth it, you are not going to strive to go ahead. So it is reading, it is math, but I think it is a lot more. And it is about the basic dignity of the child and about their own self-perception of who they are. So, what is the solution for this? Because in that whole exercise that we did, it was not only to find out what the problem was. We knew there was a problem. A clearer articulation of the problem helps. But what are the solutions? And so what I've taken is that same kind of table you can do for a school. So here is a school which has 150 children in class 3, 4, and 5. And more or less the proportions are the same. And you can see that a usual school, the teachers teach by row. Class 3, class 4, class 5. Each row has a textbook, has a set of curriculum, and so on and so forth. But there is this huge variation inside. And this variation and this low level is described very well in a paper, which you don't have to read, because the author of the paper, Lant Pritchett, who's an economist, writes wonderful papers whose titles tell you everything. So the paper that describes this schooling is not learning is called The Negative Consequences of an Overambitious Curriculum. Now, this as adults you can understand, but as kids, they can't understand the fact that they have been part of this whole exercise where the curriculum is ricocheting out of control and they are making progress much more slowly. So, in our own work with the children and with the assessment that we did, we felt, what if you started with where the child is? It doesn't matter if you're 8 years old or 10 years old. If you can't read letters, let's start there. And let's see how far you can go. And in the first couple of years, we would take a month or two to do this. Why a month or two? Because you need to move. Speed is of the essence. I have a very bad cold, so. And we could see that if you moved from rows to columns, essentially what I've done here are columns. Depending on the composition of the class, I have 3 teachers, class 3, 4, and 5, let's say, and they, instead of teaching by row, for some time during the day, they teach by columns. So the kids across these classes who are at, let's say, this letter level or beginner level are together, those who are at word level are together, and those who are at story level are together. So simply, same resources, same teachers, same school, but you move from rows to columns, and this, at some point in English started being called teaching at the right level. In many Indian languages, we continue to call it Kamal. Because what you haven't gotten in 5 years, if you're able to do in 30, 40, 50, 60 days, then it should be called Kamal, because it is really quite amazing that simply by going from rows to columns, not invoking the poverty of your family, your background, and many other things, children make very good progress. This, for those who are interested in evidence and rigors and impact, you can see this has been studied in many different ways and found to be effective. But I wanted to show you one case, recent case, of what when you do this across a whole school system, you can get. This is Andhra Pradesh last year. They had about 90 to 100 teaching days of 1 hour for reading and 1 hour for math in the school system. And you can see that this is all schools, all government primary schools in the state. And within these 90 days, just look at the green and you can see how much that has progressed over a period of time. So what I can do in one school, if I take across the system, maybe the one school will do very well, but even across the system, this kind of improvement is well beyond what I would call the natural growth of learning, which you see in the ASER reports year on year. You haven't added much to the system. You've made a little bit of time. You've made it high priority. And of course, in the implementation, there are many things that can be learned. But what I wanted to show you is this is a solution for a deep problem that we have, which is actually, I won't say it's easy to solve, but it is definitely very possible to solve. I don't want to go into how it's done and so on. That will take more time. And Saurav has not shown me the flag yet, but I know I have just a little bit more time. I want to stop here and move to the current or looking into the future. So 2020, we got our new education policy. It was interesting. It came on the last day of July of 2020. The lockdown was still kind of on. And you wonder why education policy was released at a time when schools are closed. But looking back, I think it was a very good idea because you were off the treadmill at every level and you had a chance to absorb what this new policy is actually saying. The policy says many things, it's 56 pages long, but for the purposes of Pratham, Prathamik and Purva Prathamik, the first couple of pages are enough and they are actually quite unique. So number one, what the new education policy does, and I don't know of how many other countries in the world that this is the case, it says that there is a foundational stage, begins at age 3, goes up to age 8. Now, technically, like if you look at our right to education law, it says that you're 6-year-old in standard 1. And most government schools would begin in standard 1. A few states actually had, like Assam had a core Sreni, which was like a kindergarten. But what this policy says is, start thinking about children and their journey from age 3. Think about it as a continuum and think about it as a breadth of skills. And so this, I feel, as this was to 2020, schools only opened in 2022, let's say 2023 was spent in actually just getting back into action. And so even if we take 5 years from today, we will still be within the SDG range. And I think this is a huge opportunity for us to figure out how not to have the problem that I just showed you in class 3, 4, and 5. If you begin well, begin in time, and do the right things, and you are not in a hurry, you have 5 years in which to do it, I think we could change the face of the education system in India. And 15 years later, you will need a hall triple its size because many more people will be ready to come to IIM. Where are we today? Very quickly, the ASER report actually collects information about children from 3 to 6 as well. And don't worry about too many numbers, but you'll see that there are actually quite a few options. Not all these options may be available to every family, but for a district or a state, children in this age group, especially up to 6, can either go to Anganwadi, they can go to a government school, lower or upper KG, which is more common today than it was in 2022. Private schools always start you in lower KG or upper KG. You almost can't go to first standard in private schools. You can go to actually standard 1 also, because the age restrictions sometimes are not that strong. And of course, there are some children who don't attend anywhere. You look at age 5, which is the year before you supposedly go to age 6, it has the biggest variation, which means that a class 1 teacher used to get children from all kinds of backgrounds, some who've come from an Anganwadi, some who've never been anywhere, some who are coming from a kindergarten. So she has to deal or he has to deal with a huge variation of children. Naturally, we know that India is not the same everywhere. And I've just pulled out 2 states to show you how different we are, because we need solutions which are contextually correct for us. So if I look at Odisha, you see that up to age 5, almost all children are enrolled in Anganwadis. There is a strong Anganwadi culture there. And of course, there are variations in implementation, but the fact that children remain enrolled in Anganwadis means that parents feel that there is something right that is going on there. As opposed to that, if you look at UP, you see a very high percentage of children who are not going anywhere. National policy applies to everyone, but the national policy is also flexible to say, figure out what you're going to do with your 3, 4, 5-year-olds based on whatever your conditions and your options are. So this flexibility that we have, I think, is a place for a lot of innovation. And if I look across the country, we work with many state governments. Different state governments are trying different models. And hopefully most of them are looking at their current situation to build off of that rather than bring in a standard solution for everyone. This was a slide which I'm not going to go through. It was just to make sure that you're awake and that you have enough colors and enough stripes and enough numbers. The bottom line is, and we won't go into it because I will run out of time, is that technically the age to come into standard 1 was age 6. But we see in 2022 a huge variation. So the orange bars are the percentage of children in that state who go to private school. And obviously the blue bars are more or less the children who go to government school. Big variations across the country. If you look at the gray line which is above, These are the percentage of children in that state who are under age 5 but in first standard. And you look at the orange one below, which pertains to the percentage of children who are in private schools who are age 5 and below. And even without doing too much, in-depth looking at it, you can see that there are many more underage children in government schools than in private schools, because we have very high aspirations for education for our children, and most parents feel कि जल्दी बच्चों को school में डाल दो. You can see in urban areas at 2.5 children are going to play school. I am a rural parent. I don't feel आंगनवाड़ी में वैसी पढ़ाई होती है, so first में डाल दो. But by putting an underage child in first, you are actually undermining or sort of diluting the possibility of where they can go. So one big, I think, policy that we are waiting this year in the ASER report to see what it has done is that almost every state is now mandating age 6 for entry to standard 1. And that will take care of this big structural problem that children come into standard 1, especially in government schools, too early. So that, along with the efforts that different state governments are making to shore up what should be done with age 3, with age 4, with age 5. Age 5 is a hotly contested area. Education departments feel that Bal Vatika, it's called, kind of a Hindi word for kindergarten, should be in class, it should be in school. There are other states who feel that I have Anganwadis, most children are going to Anganwadis, I should strengthen those. But I would say as a topic of research and analysis and tracking, what happens to 5-year-olds in India, I think is going to have a big importance for many things in our years to come. And that is why I feel that this policy has opened up a lot of very interesting possibilities of what we can do. Second quick thing is, the policy, as I said, is 56 pages. In case you're interested, just read up to page 8. What is on the slide here is on page 8. And I want that this should be put up on billboards everywhere around India, because it is very unusual what it says. It says that these children, you remember the 20% grade level at standard 3? What it says here is that as an urgent high priority national mission, this foundational literacy and numeracy should be attained by children by class 3. We are at 20% today. Class 3 should be the goal where we reach as far as possible. And if you don't achieve this is in the policy, I'm not saying this, the rest of the policy will be irrelevant. So I stopped reading after page 8, because we've got to get this done first. And only if this is done, then page 9 onwards is relevant for us. But this is unique because such a clear articulation of a national goal with such clear terms we have not seen before. It's not saying quality of education should be better. It's not saying, teacher training should be better. It is saying very clearly that whatever we think is the right foundation for our children, let us give it to them by the time they're age 8, and let us treat it as a big national priority. My last slide tells you where we've been with class 3 from 12 onwards. So the gray is maths and the blue is reading. And you can see that, we were inching up every 2 years from 12 till 18. The 12 numbers are slightly lower than 18. This is all India. If you took it state by state, you would see some more variation. Along comes COVID, and then you see a drop. But frankly, in 2022, when we got this graph, I was really surprised, because I thought the 2022 numbers would be much lower. These children, 2022 class 3, have had basically no schooling. They had 6 months. School started in April, then there were summer holidays, and the survey happened in September or October. So these children have had no schooling, but they're not that far behind their counterparts who've had actually two full years of schooling up to 2018. So what does this tell us? This graph has been the source of a lot of discussion. The current Education Minister of India, who actually really likes data, I've had occasion to present this to him, and this slide we talked about for at least 30 minutes. And it made me very happy, because you can interpret it how you want, but this is actually giving you the challenge that lies before us. I had a discussion, Mr. Raghuram Rajan was writing a book, this current book that has come out. And he was asking me, why I feel optimistic about India. So I said, looking at this graph, I feel optimistic because something has happened to these children. The schools could do 20, 30%. Something else has come along and done 20, 30%. What could that be? And I think this is the secret sauce. The secret sauce is that we all know, everybody who has children, that during the COVID times, whether you were at a high level or low level, everybody did what they could at home to help their children learn. So we've moved in a way from parents across the board being involved in schooling to parents doing whatever they can with learning. This graph is of mothers, of children who are in that age group, the foundational age group. And they have been the beneficiaries, these young mothers, of these many years of elementary school expansion. These are the people who've gone up to 8th standard. So if you look at the blue line, which is from 2010, many of the blue lines are below my yellow dotted line, which is 50% of mothers have at least 5th standard. And you look at the blue line, which is from 2022, apart from 3 or 4 states, almost all states have mothers who have at least half of them have more than primary education. Remember that everybody in India, and even this generation even more so, has high aspirations for their children. You can see from the data that these mothers have primary schooling at least. And the third thing, which for its own reason is a problem, but in my case I feel it's an advantage, is that we have low female labor force participation. So this combination, I think, could be what gets us closer and closer to what are the Nipun goals, which is to get our children up to a level where your grade-wise teaching will actually kick in and take people forward. So my last slide, I'm only 4 minutes over. Let's look at 2020. I think with what we are trying to do for the age group 3 to 8 is we are trying to do a leap forward. You want to do the things right, you want to do them from the beginning, and you want to watch the needle to see if what I'm saying is true or not. And then I think there are many things to be done beyond 5th, but one of the things we can do, and we know teaching at the right level works, is help children to catch up. If we can get both of these things done, I think we are in 15 years going to have a completely different India. And education policies are not made only for governments to implement. I think this is where the role of all of us comes in. Each in our own way, what is it that we can do to truly transform India for the future without actually extending too much money? It may need effort, it may need priority, it may need motivation, it may need interest. But I think the things that are happening, because the government is investing different ways in different states, in grades 1 and 2, in many states in Anganwadi, but this could be a complete game changer. And I think it is up to us to figure out how we as citizens of India can change the future of the country. I'll finish by saying that I gave, must be a similar talk, I say the same thing everywhere. Luckily none of you have heard it before, I hope. At a business school, at an elite business school. And after I finished, I got a lot of claps. They only gave me 12 minutes, you've given me much more. So hopefully I've been able to explain better. And I was quite happy. I thought I'd done a reasonably good job. And after the talk was over, I went to the washroom, and there were several people, women, young women in the bathroom. And for those who like to have conversations in the bathroom, you can have very honest conversations there. So one of the girls said to me, I think she was a student, she said, I really liked what you said. So I said, but in the end, I said, what will you do? Right? She said, yeah, you said that. But ma'am, I can't because I've got a job in McKinsey. So I'm walking away from here. Even if you have a job in McKinsey, I think it is up to all of us to really think that this is an opportunity that we have. It is a policy that wants us to do it. It's not just individual endeavor. And what in our own way, because if we want to achieve what schooling has achieved, it will need the effort of everyone to join forces. So I'll stop here. There is a very short film, which, with your permission, we can see. It's a couple of minutes, but you will have to help me. Thank you.
क्या? इसको नहीं? हाँ? ये? है?
Around the globe, the belief was that if you open a school, children will learn. But children are not learning. For example, in India, 97% children are enrolled in schools, but approximately 50% children go to 5th grade and cannot read a 2nd grade paragraph. The question to be asked is why? All human knowledge is stored in words and numbers. If we don't have foundational skills, all doors to acquiring wider knowledge are closed. And that's, I think, a global problem. In the Pratham program, it takes 50 days for a child to learn to read. If that is possible, how long will it take for 100 million children to read? Is the answer 50 times 100 million, or are we talking about 50 days? I've been working in this sector for the last 25 years. Everybody's trying to find answers to the same problem. How can we get all children to learn? I think it's easy to see in Indian schools. There are those who have access to preschool education, parents are educated. They form what I would call the front of the class. And the remainder who don't have preschool education, they form the back of the classroom. And the teacher actually more engaged with the front of the classroom. And the back of the classroom gets more and more neglected. I think that needs to be shaken up and said, do something about it. Pratham's solution for this problem is called teaching at the right level.
हाथ ऊपर करो, जोर से जाओ, जितनी जोर से हो सके। पहले हम लोगों से अपना व्यवहार, उसके लिए कुछ गतिविधियां करना जरूरी होता है। उनके साथ कुछ बातचीत पर्सनल करना, उनका जान पहचान बनाना, तो बच्चे और रिलैक्स हो जाते हैं उससे। हम दोनों लोग मिलकर पढ़ेंगे, नहीं? जी।
The place to start is always assessment. We show a piece of paper with some words, some alphabets, and some long paragraphs. Depending upon which one children can read, that is the level of the child. Instead of teaching children at every age grade, we actually try to group children according to levels.
अगर मुझे एक एक बच्चे के स्तर पता चल जाएंगे तो उसी के अनुसार मैं उनको डोज दे सकूंगी या फिर उनको गतिविधियां करा सकूंगी। कुछ भी बताते हैं तो वो जल्दी से सीखते हैं।
The activities are divided into 3 parts. The class begins with everybody participating in a story listening activity, because that doesn't require reading, it only requires listening and learning the words, and then they break up into small groups. The alphabet readers are engaging with all kinds of phonemic charts and so on, and they can read words before they know. So if you know words, you are given paragraphs.
जीना की रेल रल बहुत दूर तक.
So before they know it, they've become paragraph readers. And the third activity is then the children individually do some writing. So every child actually starts progressing. In the Pratham program, it takes 50 days for a child to learn to read. Children feel good about themselves. It's not only about reading, writing, arithmetic. Believing in yourself is the most important strength that you can acquire. And it's great fun.
Pratham has worked together with JPL affiliated professors for over 15 years to evaluate and adapt the approach to work at scale. We're a global research center. JPL conducts randomized evaluations on social programs. One of the most impressive studies was conducted in Uttar Pradesh. Students who attended the learning camp at the end of the program, double the number of those kids could read a simple paragraph than those children who didn't attend the program. What we're trying to do at JPL is best support governments and a number of organizations who are trying to adopt teaching at the right level to help best as they can.
All the government primary schools have been covered under this program. There has been a significant improvement within a very short period of time. I believe that teaching at right level is a must. It has no substitute.
Last year we reached 8 million children. We must make sure that all children will learn to read. And then once you do that in a country the size of India, why can't it be done globally?
The Teaching at the Right Level program in Zambia is being implemented in 1,100 schools, and next year the program will go to 1,800 schools. When you see kids learning, you see kids light up and feel empowered. Teaching at the Right Level is one way of empowering these children that I think could be really meaningful throughout their lives.
Kids are not resistant to learning. It's just the way you package it. I think we are giving back children their childhood. That's the teaching at the right level. It's about my self-esteem, that I am somebody, and then I'm going to grow.
Thank you, madam. I think you were much better in controlling your own time than I could have done, so thanks for that. I have just a couple of questions which we have got from our students and audience. The first one is about the impact of technology on education at this level, because the expectation has been that technology will help us to deliver quality education at scale. So what has been your experience when you have looked at the impact of education, impact of technology on education?
So I have to say that in our own programs, whatever technology we are using is usually at a higher level. Probably there is effective technologies which can help teachers, but for what I spoke about, what you saw, we haven't as yet used too much technology, except during the pandemic, when, like many other people, we were sending messages home, not assignments, but things to read, problems to solve, which we could see that under those circumstances, people, especially parents, were using at home. So I think the jury is out. A lot of different experiments are being done in India. I tend to feel that a lot of this acceleration, and I am a dinosaur, a lot of my younger teammates call me a dinosaur. I feel a lot of this change that you see very quickly comes from the people-to-people connection. But I'm sure somebody can discover a technological solution which can assist in this process. I don't think you can substitute, but that's just my own.
There is one question about your experience in terms of certain state governments adopting some best practice based on essay report or any of the things. So can you give us some examples where people have done something very useful based on your inputs?
So ASAR has been going on now for almost 20 years. I remember in the first ASAR, people were very shocked. So first they would blame sampling, and I discovered that actually nobody knows sampling. I mean, maybe like 5 people in India know sampling, but everybody has a view on it. Okay, so I remember a day we were in the UP, I forget, secretary or whoever, some senior person's room, and he looked at the data and he said, I can believe UP's data, but I can't believe the Tamil Nadu data. So he picked up the phone and he called his counterpart in Tamil Nadu. So I could not hear what the Tamil Nadu guy was saying, but the UP gentleman said that, we have been basing our entire reform efforts on enough teachers, enough schools, enough textbooks on time, and we are looking to states like Tamil Nadu because they seem to have done it all, and we think it's an advanced state in terms of education. But if you're showing me outcomes where Tamil Nadu is also not doing that well, then who do I follow? What do I do? And that, I think, discussion on this data also opened opportunities. So to say, for example, why don't you try teaching at the right level? So I feel like when you don't believe the data, you actually get more involved. When you believe the data, you feel like you need to do something else. And year after year, ASAR and even otherwise has been an opportunity to actually talk about, do you believe the problem? Because if you don't believe the problem, then no solution is going to work. Now, if you don't believe the problem, तो आप बाहर जाके जरा देख के आओ, अपने स्कूलों में देख के आओ आपकी हालत क्या है. So some amount of, I think, honesty is required, because as soon as you accept the problem, then you are really hunting for solutions. And today, of course, now after so many years, all state governments are they may be doing this or something else. But we've worked with many state governments, and there are other things also that have been done, all to look at how do you improve learning.
One question from the audience. Okay, I saw the hand first. You take the mic, please. Yeah. Keep it short, please.
Ma'am, I know of a foundation in Nigeria, it's called Life Builders Foundation. They had a similar initiative of teaching street-going children, and they observed the same thing, that children were not really interested in learning, as in they were not able to learn whatever they were being taught. So to analyze the reason behind this, they realized that these children are actually malnutritioned. So they first started the program of introducing meals in this school.
Question. Come to the question quickly, please. Yeah.
So that was the reason that they found out. Is this also the reason in Indian context as well? And if it is, then is Pratham doing anything related to malnutrition?
No, so one is that, even in our Anganwadis, there is a meal provision. So that's one of the reasons why going to preschool, continuing in preschool is a very good idea, because from the government side, there is immunization, there is health, and there is nutrition that is available from age 3 or even earlier actually. All our schools, government schools, have hot cooked meals. I'm not saying that it counters some malnutrition that you may have had as a child, or the fact that, whether this nutrition is enough or not. But I think that, again, I don't know about other countries, but we've had a very serious feeding school meals policy for quite some time. And again, to me, it is very impressive how in, 1 million schools in India, every day hot food is cooked. I personally, when I'm in the field, don't ever carry lunch because I eat lunch in schools. And it's very easy to see that which school is proud of its meal and which is not. So if more people, even if you do nothing else, show up at a school at lunchtime, you'll be doing the school a favor.
Thank you. So before I hand it over back to Cornell, I must tell you that there were plenty of management lessons which you gave us through your presentation. You showed us numbers, you showed us graphs. Very importantly, you showed us the insight based on that. Right? That row to column transposition was simply brilliant. I have done it so many times in my life, never understood what I was doing, why I was doing it. Today I see a very practical application of that. So thanks for that. And finally, this realization that somebody coming to class doesn't lead to learning. We also learned it very hard way. Yeah. So you are also talking about us. Thank you. So Colin, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. That was a wonderful and exhilarating lecture. We request Professor Malvika Haritha, Member Board of Governors, IIM Bangalore, to present a memento to the Chief Guest, Dr. Rukmini Banerjee, CEO of Pratham Education Foundation. A round of applause to our chief guest. Now we would like to recognize the valuable contribution of our alumni. We request Professor Saurav Mukherjee, Dean Alumni Relations and Development, to conduct our award ceremony.
Thank you. So since last year, we started this special award called Alumni Service Awards. This was meant to recognize the exceptional contribution of our alumni to the Alumni Association or to the Institute. This was given out last year, and this is arrived at through a process of nomination, and finally there is a committee which comprises important alumni as well as faculty members from IIM Bangalore who makes this choice. So I'm very pleased to announce the winners of this year of this prestigious Alumni Service Award, and I will go one by one. The first recipient of this award is Mr. C.P. Madhusudan, who is our postgraduate student from 1993. All right, so Mr. Madhusudan is an alumni from IIT Madras, and he has been the head of the Chennai chapter of I'm sorry, I'm keeping you standing. Please come and sit. Yeah, I'll read it out. Yeah. So he has been the president of the Madras Alumni chapter for a pretty long time, from 2008 to 2024. He was also the president of IIT Madras Alumni chapter, secretary of the IIT Madras Alumni chapter for a pretty long time. I know personally also that he had played a very constructive and mentorship role in mentoring many other alumni chapters that we opened as alumni association. Currently, he is a co-founder of WUHA MedData, which has launched ServeI, a technology-led solution for cervical cancers. His current business interest is in field of diagnostics and data. He is also associated with industry bodies such as Indian Society for Non-Destructive Testing, and he is also a trustee for organizations that are engaged in revival of temples, and is a patron of Indian classical music. I invite Mr. Harish Mittal, our IIM Bangalore Alumni Association President, to come on stage and hand over the award to Mr. Madhusudan. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Thank you, IIMB and IIMB for the award. It's actually today, we've had a very inspiring talk, and maybe I'll have a startup in this area. Got to talk to her a little bit about that, but possibly maybe some younger alumni are inspired and take it up. That would be really fitting. Actually, it's a little bit of serendipity and poor succession planning. Okay, so the story, I'll not take a long time, but it's a really long story. In 2008, as we were setting up the chapters, Rakesh, he came up and said, Madhu, you be the head because you're running your own business and you will not leave Chennai. Chennai, is not really attractive for young or even middle-aged IIMB alumni, so as a place to find a job. So then I said, okay, and then we started in our office with actually my partner who's not an alumnus to build a quorum. So we need more than two people to talk, right? So we started with some tea and it kept on happening. And of course, I started to build a team. But the interesting thing is every time I identified a team, within 6 months they would find a job in a better city and leave. So that's poor succession planning. But then finally I was able to find people like me who could not leave the city, right? Either because they had their own jobs or their spouse had a job, right? For example, one of them spouse is a doctor in the local state government, okay, and she obviously likes the job and doesn't want to leave, so the guy is also stuck. So that's the kind of thing that happened. And I said that I'll have to really leave town and then the family was saying, why are you spending so much time on this? And then I wasn't sure why I was doing that. Then over a period of time, as more and newer people came to the city, they all thought it's my only job. So they were really surprised that I have another job, that I have kids and a family as well. So that was an interesting phase. And then came COVID, and I really didn't have a job. The previous business actually went bust. It may be a surprise, but there are jobs that you can't do from home. Okay, and one of these is inspecting pipelines and aircraft parts and nuclear plants, etc. So the bottom really fell out of the business. And then I was stuck at home. And then the wife said, oh, why don't you at least do some alumni work? Instead of just sitting at home. But okay, so then I actually left the city, moved to Hyderabad, set up a new company in the healthcare space. But Harish said, no, it's a golden jubilee year. You can't go anywhere. And not only can you not go anywhere, you have to set up some new chapters. So anyway, it was a wonderful ride. I actually met literally thousands of alumni. So that was actually the best part of it. And we have a very strong core of alumni leaders. Harish is right here. I actually belong with them on that side, not on this side, right? I'm used to giving out the awards at dozens of alumni events that I've organized. It's very different to have one, and it's actually a great place. I was wondering what I'm going to say, right? Because people here talk for a living, right? They mesmerize the audiences. Vasanti here will relate to that. No, I have to mention you, right, because you are one of the few, you were actually studying with us and then you became a faculty and then the dean, etc. So I outlasted a lot of the deans here, right, so, and all of that, but I think the challenge is how do we build how do we continue to build on the momentum and bring more alumni, get them engaged, not just with the alumni and also with the institute. So Harish and Saif earlier have done a great job in actually bringing the alumni together, and I look forward to actually being on the other side again. Thank you.
Our next award winner is Pawan Sachdev. Pawan is a postgraduate student of the program from 1996. He is based in Singapore and he could not make it today, so we will listen to his acceptance speech immediately. But let me tell you that the Pawan has been quite extraordinary in terms of collaborating with the faculty members at IIM Bangalore. He has also collaborated with his batchmates to offer 2 courses at IIM Bangalore, and he works with one of our faculty members, Professor Gopal Naik, who is here in IIM Bangalore's Jal Jeevan Mission. In his, in his professional life, he is today an investment analyst at Amansa Capital in Singapore, and he is also an author, an environmental enthusiast, and a very important mentor to budding managers. So, can we have Pawan's acceptance speech?
As in any marketplace, from demand perspective, IIM Bangalore is looking for support from its alumni. And from supply side perspective, the alumni has deep desire to give back to the institute. But what is usually missing is the market making, which is possible through curation of creative and collaborative partnerships. This award is kind of a recognition of such collaborations, which wouldn't have been possible without the open-mindedness of the leadership of IIM Bangalore, its faculty, and support from its staff, and especially the alumni office. I remain thankful to my classmates, my batchmates, Hitesh Oberoi, Divya Sehgal, Karthik Reddy, Manish Kunwani, and Anurag Sabu for agreeing to be part of a team which shared their personal playbooks and investments with students at IIM Bangalore. This was done through a course which took 1 year to curate with the help of Professor Ravi Anshuman, Sudha, and Partha at IIM Bangalore, and Kapshe from my batch. Under the guidance and leadership of Professor Gopal Naik, who is the chair of Jal Jeevan Mission at IIM Bangalore, we were able to forge a collaborative platform where different stakeholders from water sector in India came together to contribute to the sustainability of Jal Jeevan Mission, a scheme of national importance. This was done through a symposium we held at IIM Bangalore last year and the continuous deliberations and discussions. My deep gratitude to my friend Viraj Tyagi, PGP 93 IIM Bangalore, who gave patient listening to some of my ideas and steered his organization in having a couple of collaborations with IIM Bangalore. And finally, I dedicate this award to all the friendships and love I get from my batch of IIM Bangalore 96. I wish IIM Bangalore and the wider IIM Bangalore community the very best. Cheers. I look forward to stay engaged with the IIM Bangalore community. Thank you.
Pawan keeps on coming to IIM Bangalore quite often because of his collaboration, so he will actually receive the award when he is here next. And our final award winner is Shashank Kothi, Mr. Shashank Kothi, who is a postgraduate student in the batch of 2000. He has been closely working with IIM Bangalore's Alumni Association on many of their initiatives. And just recently, he also instituted a scholarship for a girl child of an IIM Bangalore staff. He is the founder of FinFirst, a financial services firm. And before that, he has been working in the industry with very famous names such as JP Morgan, Vedanta Resources, ICICI Bank, and Kotak Investment Bank. On the personal front also, it's very interesting that Shashank is married to an alumna of IIM Bangalore, Sapna Mitra. I am glad to see her in the audience. And Shashank, you are invited on the stage. And once again, I invite Mr. Harish Mittal on the stage to do the honors. Mr. Shashank Kothi. don't want to cover. No, we'll cover.
Thank you, sir. So I get to speak. Good evening. It's with great pleasure and pride that I stand here to receive this prestigious award. This award is particularly special not only for me but for the whole IIMB community as well. This is an Inside the Family award, right? So that recognizes the contribution to the family. So that makes it both important and intimate. I believe that IIMB is one of the few leading institutions that recognizes such contributions from the alumni. So, firstly, a big round of applause for the mothership, IIMB, which is really at the center of this good work. I feel quite happy, blessed, grateful, and proud to be standing here. As I mentioned earlier to someone else, it is actually the network of well-wishers that makes these kind of things happen and not someone sitting on an island. So in that sense, this award truly belongs to the entire community of the well-wishers of IIMB. It is not a one-person award, and I am sincerely grateful to their help whenever people like me have come to them asking for some help for a cause where at the center it is IIMB. Whilst the list is unending, I have to specially thank some people, some entities, without which this really could not have happened. It really starts with people like Desan, people like Gundurao, people like Ramesh, for people who you still remember them, and goes all the way to people like Professor RTK, Saurabh. Also, I have very fond memories of Professor Janat Shah when I was studying here, so I have to call their names out. All these people have, without any hesitation, without any protocol, come and helped me and anyone else without any hesitation and just given it all so that it comes back to IIMB. The Alumni Office and IIMB are actually leading the way with absolutely enviable level of alumni engagement across the country, maybe even in the world. This is, led by, Uttanka, this super energetic Harish Mittal. He's really taken it to a different level. So we really have to give it up to him. My hat tip to them as well. And I feel blessed to be a part of the batch of 2000 actually. It is really this batch that has made me who I am. And I have mostly stood on their shoulders, often to get some undeserved credit, but a lot of work has actually been done by the batch of 2000. So the gratitude truly belongs to them. And finally, the most important people in the system, my parents. My mother is right here. My brother, they are the ones who really put me through this institute. And then, of course, saving the best for the last, that is my significant other in true sense, Swapna Mitra from the batch of 99. My sincere gratitude to all of you and the entire IIMB community for making me stand here. Thank you so much.
Now we would like to recognize the valuable contribution of our faculty and staff who spent many valuable years in their service to the institute. These awards are for completing 10 and 20 years of service with the institute. We request Professor Dinesh Kumar, Dean Faculty, to give the thanksgiving to the faculty and announce their awards.
Hi, good evening. Two of our faculty colleagues have completed 20 years of service at IIM Bangalore. Thanks to them. I'd like to call first Professor Ashish Mishra. Ashish joined IIM Bangalore on 5th May 2004. He specifically told me not to read anything about what he did in the past 20 years. I didn't do anything. So I'm going to, say what he is currently doing. Currently, he serves as a chairperson of PGPM. Earlier, he has served as chairperson of admissions Marketing Area and Library. I request Professor Malavika Haritha, member Board of IIMB, to give a memento. Yeah. Next, Professor Shankar Venkatagiri. He joined IIMB in May 2002 as visiting faculty and became full-time on 16th April 2004. I'm going to the last line. He is currently serving as chairperson of IS area. Earlier, he has served as chairperson, postgraduate program in software enterprise management, IT FAC, and ERP. Again, I request Professor Malavika to give memento and token of appreciation. Thank you.
We request Professor Jaydev, Dean Administration, to give thanksgiving to the staff and announce their mementos.
Good evening to all. It gives me great pleasure to invite my office colleagues who have successfully completed 10 years of service serving the IIMB and IIMB community. Ms. Aparna. Yeah. Aparna Suresh. Aparna currently works in director's office, and she has been with IIMB and known for her diligence and work ethics. Professor Malavika. Ms. Yashaswini, she works for students' hostel and maintaining the schedules and lot of work irrespective of the working day or holiday. Ms. Yashaswini. Ms. Mr. Darshan, we see a lot of beautiful photos on IIMB website. Mr. Ramesh, he is instrumental in making the entry for PGP students, works in our admissions office. Ramesh. Mr. Lokapriya, who works for hand transport. Mr. Rakesh, he is a technician. Mr. Rakesh is AC technician. Miss Bhavya. Miss Bhavya works in Dean Programs Office. Miss Sindhu works for Director's Office, schedules a lot of appointments. Mr. Srinath has Srinath works for Doctor Program Office. Miss Ramya works in accounts. Miss Shantala, she works in EPGP of Program Office. Miss Asma, Mr. Latisha works in departmental canteen and Mr. Balakrishna works marketing department. He marks at the programs. So once again, congratulations to all these members. Thank you.
Heartiest congratulations to all the award winners. We'll quickly request all the award winners to come onto the stage for a photograph with the chief guest.
Dinesh, come. Your name board is here. At least come in. Yeah, come.
So, Dean not win. Yeah.
Jaidev, please come.
Vote of thanks. Honorable Director, IIM Bangalore, our most valued guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my proud privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of the entire faculty, staff and students of IIM Bangalore and alumni, and on my own behalf, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to our chief guest, Dr. Rukmini Banerjee, CEO of Pratham Education Foundation, for taking a time off from her busy schedule and joining us at IIMB. We'd also like to thank her for a wonderful talk on opportunities and challenges of education in today's India. Thank you, ma'am. A big thank you to our director, Professor Arte Krishnan, and our member Board of Governors, Professor Malvika Harita, for sharing their thoughts and insights during the 51st Foundation Day. And heartiest congratulations to all the long service award winners. You have left an indelible mark in the organization with your hard work and dedication. A big thank you to the staff who have spent considerable extra effort and time over the last 1 month to make the multiple events of the 51st Foundation Day a reality. Thank you. Finally, I would also like to take this opportunity to place on record our hearty thanks to the admin, HR, IT, estate, communication departments for all the support provided for making the events of the 51st Foundation Day a grand success. Thank you, one and all. We'll request everyone to rise for national anthem.
तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभाशिष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
The function is declared closed.